Alrighty, hello there, and welcome to Discover Movement's weekly warm-up. This week's goal will be creating mobility in the ankle, stability in the knee, mobility in the hip complex, stability in the core and lumbar spine, and mobility in the thoracic spine, so 5 different stations. And we're starting here with single leg stance and reaching forward. We're reaching in all different planes, reaching forward, reaching sideways, and reaching in rotation. And the goal here is to create active mobility in the ankle joint. With its 26 bones, 12 tendons, and 20-something muscles, the foot and ankle definitely deserves a special attention in the warm-up. And the transverse plane reach here is done with the crossover reach behind the supporting leg. That also creates nice rotation in the hip. And as you notice, most of these movements really involve all the parts of the body. Of course, a big balance and coordination component involved here as well. Okay, and next we're moving up from the ankle and the foot to knee and the hip. And we'll do that with lunges in 3 different planes and directions. And the first one will be a lunge hold in a sagittal plane, so holding a lunge position with arms overhead, with a goal of trying to open up that hip complex a little bit for improvement of the glute activation and stretching those tight hip flexors. The next lunging movement is done in a frontal plane. The arms are rotating in a transverse plane, so one arm is reaching down to the foot, one is pointing straight up to the sky. Third plane here is transverse plane, so we're taking a crossover step and creating a little upper body rotation as well with the counter movement of the arms. So those 3 lunging movements should prepare the hip pretty well for the activity. Then we're moving into a more stability-based activation, which is more for the lumbar spine and core region, and this is an exercise called a hitchhiker, and this starts from a plank position with an alternating reach straight forward, trying to keep the hips pretty much square and not moving. And as we know, the whole pillar of the core is 3-dimensional, so we're also going for the side core. This exercise is known as the star, aka the human snowflake, aka letter X. This exercise will create a nice activation in the whole lateral line, including the hip stabilizers. After about 10 of those, the sides of the hips start cooking and we're moving into the posterior chain, which is the basic bridge position with the fully extended hip and marching in place. Basically just straightening the leg while the other leg supports the bridge. The arms can be kept in about 90 degrees, palms facing up, to create a little external rotation to help postural alignment. Okay, moving to the thoracic spine, but staying in the prone position and in the on-ground activities. And the first one is stationary inchworm. We're trying to open up the shoulder flexion extension movement properly. So really trying to pike up the hips, looking back. As you know, you also get little cervical movement there in the sagittal plane by extending and flexing. And that warms up the shoulder region and the scapular movement a little bit, at least in one plane. And we'll also do this movement or a similar movement in different planes. In order to create a little bit more rotation and retraction, protraction activation, we're doing the T rotation with the little bit exaggerated reach under the armpit in down position, and then reaching out all the way up. So rotating or pivoting around that supporting shoulder. So we performed short, static, active movement preparation for all the 5 stations. And we're moving straight into a little bit more reactive activation that involves all those 5 stations. And we're starting with single leg hops in all 3 planes. We started the hops in frontal plane, and here is the sagittal plane, and the last one will be the transverse plane. Also, the core and the upper body will get prepared for movement during these reactive movement patterns. Hops and jumps always help us to activate that stretch shortening cycle that is so important for all explosive and reactive movement. And we're finishing up the whole movement preparation with a little bit more dynamic lunging sequence. These lunges are the same as in the beginning of the warm-up routine, just performed faster. So in these final lunging patterns, we're just adding a little bit more speed, a little bit more dynamic activity in the movement, and we're starting to be prepared for other activities, more sport-specific warm-up, or going straight into the warm-up games and drills. The last lunging pattern here is the crossover lunge with the arms going to the opposite direction, which creates a big corkscrew action in the body. Prepares the abdominal wall and the whole thoracic spine in an integrated way for movement. Thank you for watching Weekly Warm-Up.